It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 31, looking at the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Algeria. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go! Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 31 on the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode covers Algeria's players. Just a note on where we're at in our mediacasts. We're publishing previews of the groups and teams of the 2025 African Cup at the same time as this series on the players. Last summer, we previewed the groups, teams, and players for the 2025 CONCACAF Gold Cup, and we also did a mediacast introducing ourselves. After this African Cup, we will tackle the massive 48-team World Cup in the summer of 2026. So we plan to start publishing episodes on that in the springtime of 2026. We're doing this mediacast on the players in two parts. Part 1 here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examine the participation of players in games over the recent period, as well as a couple of other factors, and categorize players into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, and seemingly off the squad. And we'll go into more detail on the players we think likely to reach the final squad, and less, perhaps just even the names of players unlikely to get there. Part 2 will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad selected. That'll probably be in mid-December, shortly here. And at that time, we'll go back over the list that we create here today and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also cover things like injuries and surprise selections. So this episode has 3 sections. In section 1, we will look at some general information on the team. And in section 2, the main section there, we're going to look at our candidates and look at their likelihood of selection, give some career information on the main players there. And in section 3, we're going to summarize a few things and, review kind of what we talked about over the mediacast in general. So let's move on to section 1. We will actually talk about big names off the squad as we're going in section 2, and then we'll review them in section 3. So let's go on to club affiliations, trying to find a way to kind of keep this short and sweet, but giving a good impression. So I'm going to put more information on the screen than I actually say. But for domestic, the domestic league in Algeria, we'd say about 15% of the players play for teams like USM Alger and Kabylie there. And in similar leagues across Africa and Asia, similar or maybe slightly bigger, about 20% playing in leagues like Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and there's 2 playing for Esperance in Tunisia there. Outside of Europe, they do have a couple of players playing for clubs in the USA and right here in Canada, although on the other side of Canada than where I'm at. But the majority of players, or not the majority, are playing, the majority, I would say, are playing in Europe. About 15% of them for small and mid-sized clubs in Europe. I'll give Lugano in Switzerland as an example there. And then about 40% playing for mid to top clubs in Europe, and I'll give like Panathinaikos in Greece, Wolfsburg in Germany, for example, there. And one would expect that France would be the club or the country with most players. Actually, not as many as I would have thought. About 15% of them playing in France. The topmost clubs that are represented, kind of the biggest clubs, they have a player with Borussia Dortmund in Germany and Manchester City in England. Also a couple of players for Lille in France and Marseille in France. So those would probably represent the biggest club names. So pretty good club affiliations as far as African teams go there. And again, as I've said in other media casts, this is probably good to compare with those of the other countries in their group. That's when it really comes to life. Anyway, we move on to recent games. So let's look at the games in the build-up to this cup. We're examining the position of players from just after the 2023 African Cup, which was played in January of 2024. And so the African Cup itself will be the beginning of our narrative, but we're measuring participation in the 18 games that happened since the end, since after the African Cup up until October of 2025 there. So let's go through that quickly. We have the 2023 African Cup played in January of 2024. Just 3 games there for Algeria. They were knocked out in the group stage, actually finished bottom of the group. So that means their manager was replaced. We'll talk about that right at the beginning of section 2. And we had a new manager coming in after that cup. So all the rest of the games come under the new manager here. And that begins with 2 friendlies in March of 2024, and then 2 World Cup qualifying games in June of 2024. In the fall of 2024, September, October, and November, they had all 6 of the qualifying games for this cup. So all qualification done just in that short period. And of course, they reached the cup. That's why we're doing this. Into 2025, they have 2 World Cup qualifying matches in March of 2025. In June of 2025, they actually had 3 friendlies. We're only going to count 2 of those for reasons I won't get into. And then in 2026 in the fall, September and October, they completed World Cup 2026 qualifying with 4 games there. And they won their group and are successfully qualified for the next World Cup. Okay, let's look at the formations in those games. We're not going to go into any great detail. We'll actually just say in 10 of the 18 games, they used a 4-3-3 formation. So that's their most common formation. That's 56% of the games. The other 44% was 4 different formations, and we won't go into detail on that. Rather, we'll just kind of summarize a couple of patterns that we see there. So 2 or 3 man central defense. Well, in 83% of games, it is just a 2-man central defense, and in 17% of games, a 3-man central defense. All of those 3 games were in the fall of 2024. Otherwise, we're looking at 2 central defenders with a right back and a left back. Up front, a single man forward in 56% of the games, but a 2-man forward line in 44% of the games. So almost half and half there. And we'll talk about the midfield in a bit more detail when we get there. But again, that 4-3-3 formation used 56% of the time suggests that it's often a 3-man midfield for Algeria. Okay, the last order of business here is a look at their upcoming games. Well, again, we did our preparation up until the end of October, but because Algeria is in Group E, we're getting around to it here at the beginning of December, actually almost mid-December. Yikes, I'm running out of time. So they actually have played quite a few games. 2 friendlies in November. There, we're not really interested in the results here, but we are going to use these games when we get to part 2 and kind of examine the players lineups there, but I might as well tell you what the results were. Both of those games in November played in Saudi Arabia. The first one was against Saudi Arabia. They won 2-0. And the second one was against Zimbabwe. They won 3-1. So we'll be looking at the lineups in those games. And also in the Arab Cup, which has taken place here just recently in December. In the group stage, they started with a draw against Sudan. That's kind of interesting because Sudan is in their group here. And then games 2 and 3, they beat Asian teams, Bahrain and Iraq. Asian in the sense of them being in the Asian Confederation. So that got them past the group stage, and they met another Asian Confederation team in the following stage. They played UAE, and that game actually should be 0-0, I think. Went to penalties. That game went to penalties, and UAE beat them 7-6 on penalties. So knocked out there in the quarterfinals of the Arab Cup. So I'll bet you're wondering if they use their A team in that game, but I'm being agnostic here and pretending that I don't know yet. So we will deal with that in part 2. In part 2. That brings us to the end of section 1 here, and we move on to section 2, our main order of business, looking at the candidates for the Cup. So let's start with the manager. We're going to begin by just listing the names, the character cast, as it were, and then we'll talk about a narrative or the story of that position over the period, and then we'll come back and look at the main candidates in more detail. So we begin with the incoming manager, Vladimir Petrovic, but most of the story will actually be about the outgoing manager, Jamal Belmadi, there. So let us go to the narrative, and of course, it begins with Belmadi, who was the manager of Algeria from August 2019, and he guided them to their second ever African Cup title win in 2019, the first having been in 1990 as tournament host, so their second African Cup title. He also guided them to a title win in the first ever FIFA-sponsored Arab Cup in December of 2021. The Arab Cup existed before that, but became a bigger competition when FIFA got behind it, and they won that. So 2 really good results for Belmadi there. And prior to that Arab Cup win, they had won the main group of their qualifying for 2022 World Cup qualifications. So in March of 2022 was the second round, the final playoff there, and they lost, though. They lost that playoff in extra time to Cameroon. So they failed to reach the World Cup. Big disappointment there. That would have been Algeria's 5th World Cup. More disappointment followed as they fell at the group stage in the 2021 African Cup. That played in January 2022, and then suffered the exact same fate in the 2023 edition, that being in January 2024. So both of those cups saw them finish a shameful last place in their group. So it was surprising enough that Belmadi had survived the first time, but he didn't survive the second. The team and the manager separated by mutual consent, although it did become messy when Belmadi insisted on being paid out until the end of his contract, which was set to go until 2026. In other words, he wanted 29 months of pay, amounting to almost 7 million euros. So that matter is still in court between them. Anyway, the official date of Belmadi's leaving was January 24th, a day after their exit from the Cup. And just to finish off his story, Belmadi, a year later, he became manager of Al Duhai, one of the top clubs in Qatar there. Anyway, in February 2024, so a month after Belmadi left, Vladimir Petkovic came in, and in the fall, he guided them through a very successful qualification for this 2025 African Cup. And in 2025, the year 2025, he completed the qualification campaign for World Cup 2026 qualifying. So, despite losing his first game in charge, that was at home to Guinea in March of 2025, and they were ultimately bested by Guinea. Despite those poor results, he won all other games and finished atop the group to earn automatic qualification for the World Cup. So they will definitely be happy about that, having failed to qualify in 2022. Okay, so that's it. Vladimir Petkovic, the manager. Let's take a bit of a closer look at him. He was born in Yugoslavia, that's now Bosnia, or the area that is now Bosnia. And he was a player, played professionally in Yugoslavia and Switzerland from 1981 to 1999, but didn't earn any international caps. Before taking on the management role for Algeria in 2024, he was manager of Bordeaux in France, a big club there, and the Switzerland national team from 2014 to 2021, and several clubs before that in Italy, Turkey, and Switzerland. So, yes, big success there with the Turkish national team. I won't go into detail on it, but he went through 3 cups with Switzerland there. Okay, so that is Vladimir Petkovic, and let's move on to the goalkeepers. And here we'll begin by listing the names. So we begin with Alex Guendouzi as a definite candidate. Alex Guendouzi. And then we have likely candidate Oussama Benbou. And just at the possible level here is Anthony Mandrea. He was the starter in the last African Cup, so a bit of a surprise there. And in all, we have 4 possible candidates besides Mandrea. We have Alexandra Ukija, and then Luka Zidane. That's the son of Zinedine Zidane. And we have Zakaria Boulhafaya there. And I'm using a new system, or a slightly new system here. I'll just touch on it so those watching YouTube can follow. If their name is in black script, that means they've been selected for a tournament. They've been through a tournament. If it's in light gray script, it means they haven't been through a tournament. And if it's in orange script, this is the new part, that means they have just joined the team during this period. And then if it's in dark gray script, like the next one, it means they're retired from the team, basically. So we have none at the possible but unlikely level, but at the seemingly off the squad level, we have Reyes Mboli, the veteran keeper or for the squad there. Seemingly off the squad, and also at seemingly off the squad, Mustafa Zegba. Okay, let's go, and that's an awful lot of candidates for goalie. You may be wondering what's been going on. Well, I'll tell you in the summary here. Anthony Mandrea was the starting keeper in the African Cup in January of 2024, and he remained the starter through to September 24 to those African Cup qualifying games. He was replaced by newcomer Alex Guendouzi, though Guendouzi only started about 2/3 of the game going forward. When he was on the bench, each of the players below, including Mandrea, but not including Boulhafaya, each of them got a start. So it looks like Guendouzi has a fairly firm grip on the position, and the backup position seems very much up in the air here. Let's look at the players, though, because we have a little drama with Guendouzi being injured. let me introduce him. Well, let me talk about the injury first. He's out with a calf injury since very recently, mid-December here, and an unknown return date. So I got to say that looks like he's going to be out for the Cup. Anyway, we'll give you the short bio on him here. Guendouzi has been with Algeria since 2023 with 14 caps, and he's 29 years old. He was born in France, but is actually playing for MC Alger in Algeria, and played for Persepolis in Iran there. Prior to that, though, most of his clubs have been in Algeria, despite being born in France. He got his first cap for Algeria in 2023. He started 8 of their remaining games here and was on the bench for 7 others. And he got his start with the B team in the African National Championship in 2023. That's actually why we have him in 2023. So as far as the senior team goes, he's actually should be in orange here. Coming in during this period. Anyway, he may not be relevant if his injury prevents him from being the Cup, and that'll improve the chances of the players below. So we'll talk about that in part 2, but just introduce the candidates here. The likely candidate is Oussama Ben Bout. He's been with Algeria since 2023, only 2 caps for him, and he is 31 years old. Also, like Guendouzi, plays for, no, he doesn't play for MC Alger, he plays for USM Alger in Algeria, so also playing locally. And all of his clubs have been in Algeria. He was actually selected for the 2023 African Cup, but didn't see any action in that tournament. And over this period, he started one of their 18 games and was on the bench for 13. So just 4 matches that Ben Bout was not selected for. Next, we have Anthony Mandrea, the starter in the last African Cup. He had been with Algeria just since 2022, but has 21 caps for them and is 29 years old. He plays for Caen in France. He's French-born, actually, and played for French youth teams. All of his clubs have been in France. He was with Angers for a long time before moving to Caen in 2022. As I said, starter in the last African Cup. And over the period from after the African Cup, he started 6 of the 18 games and was on the bench for 4 and injured for 2, but not selected for 6 matches, of course, toward the end there. Lost his starting position. Next, we have Alexandre Oukida, and he's been with Algeria since 2019, 7 caps for him, and he's 37 years old. He plays for a club in Serbia, but was mostly in France. Before that, he's also French-born. Ukija and Metz was the team he was with for quite a while before moving to Serbia. He was selected for the 2019 and 2021 African squads. He didn't see any action in those tournaments and then wasn't selected for the last African Cup. In fact, he returned in this period after an 18-month absence in September of 2024. And he, like most of them, started 1 game. He though was injured for the last 4 games and is still an injury concern. So he is out with a cruciate ligament injury tear since August of 2025 and an unknown return date for Alexander Ukija. So they could be struggling for a goalkeeper, and we're going to see they're struggling in other positions with injuries as well, but pretty severe, as it might change things quite a bit in the goalkeeper position. Let's look at our third possible candidate. That's Luka Zidane. And he is the son of Zinedine Zidane, as I'm sure he hears every time his name is mentioned. He's been with Algeria since 2025, so new to the team, with 1 cap, and is 27 years old. He plays for Granada in Spain there, and he got his first appearance on the bench in October of 2025, so right at the end here, and he started one of their remaining 4 games. I wonder if he came in September there, because 4 games suggests September. But anyway, came in right at the end. It must have been September because he was on the bench for one, injured for one, and not selected for the last match. So it'll be kind of interesting. I saw a picture of him. He looks exactly the spitting image of his father there, Lucas Zidane. But I'm sure he would like a little separation from his father's name and carve out his own identity. Anyway, the last of the possible candidates is the only one who didn't play a game over the period. That's Zakaria Bouhafaya. And so he has no caps for the national team. He's 28 years old, also playing in Algeria for CS Constantine since 2023. And he got his first appearance on the bench in October of 2024. Didn't start any games, but was on the bench for 4 and not selected for 8 others, including the last 2 matches. So he was there for the September matches there. And like a few of these players, he got his start. He didn't get his start with the B team in the African National Championship, but he did play in that tournament in 2025 there. Okay, let's go. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about players below this level, but I do want to talk a bit about Race and Bowley. I won't give the full biography because we did that last time around. We thought he was off the team, off the national team, and lo and behold, he was suddenly selected for the African Cup in 2023, as he had been selected for all tournaments since 2010. So a real veteran for the team, but did last appear in the African Cup there in January 2024. So unless he makes another comeback, and given the injury situation, that just might happen, we may see Race and Bowley suddenly called back to the team as he was for the 2023 Cup there. The other player off the team also has tournament experience. He was let me go in order here. It's Mustafa Zegbi. And we won't go into detail. So I'll say he was a backup keeper in the last 2 African Cups, selected for that. But didn't see any action in those tournaments. But he last appeared for the national team on the bench in June of 2024. So Mustafa Zegba seems to be out of the picture. He, by the way, is 35 years old. Excuse me, whereas Race and Bowley is 39 years old, although age didn't stop him 2 years ago. And he is still playing club soccer in Bowley. Okay, that's it for goalkeepers. Quite a few candidates there. Let's go to defenders, and we'll begin with central defenders. And we have a definite candidate in the form of Aissa Mandi. So we're naming the candidates here. And also definite is Rami Bensebaini. People schooled in Algeria may say, hey, what are you doing? He's a left back. But no, over the last couple of years, he has been more of a central defender than a left back. He did play one game as a left back during this period, but otherwise really has become a central defender. Likely candidate is Mohamed Amin Tougai. And focus on the Tougai because the first player at the possible level is also called Mohamed Amin, but that's Mohamed Amin Madini. Mohamed Amin Madani. So he's possible, and we have 3 more possible candidates: Zinedine Belaid, Ahmed Touba, and Samir Churdwi. And then one candidate seemingly off the squad, Ayub Abdallawi. Okay, let us go to the narrative on these players. Okay, so Aissa Mandi and Rami Bensebaini were the main central defending pairing in the Cup. But Bensebaini got 2 yellow cards over the first couple of games, so he was suspended for game 3, and it was Mohamed Amin Tougai replacing him in that game. And over the period, it effectively became a rotation of these three players. Issa Mandy almost always starting. But in the fall of 2024, he started 3 games as a right back rather than a central defender. Overall, Ben Sabini started more than 2 games. But as we said in section 1, the 3 other games where Mandy didn't start as a right back, it was a 3-man central defence, so it was all 3 of them together. The only other player to come into the picture was Mohamed Amin Madani, and he got 2 starts early in the period, but after an injury prevented his call-up in September 2025, he was not even selected for the October game. So really, it seems all central defensive duties are handled by these 3 players, Mandy, Bentabeni, and Tugai. Okay, let's look at them in more detail then, beginning with Issa Mandy, and he's become a Centurion. He has 111 caps and 6 goals since 2014 and is 34 years old. Mandy plays for Lille in France since 2024 and was with Villarreal in Spain for 3 years before that. So very good club affiliations there. Mandy was born in France and has been part of tournaments since the 2014 World Cup, usually as a starter. In fact, he was even captain of the team for the 2017 African Cup. And yeah, he hasn't missed a tournament. So that's, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tournaments, and he was a starter in all of them. He scored a couple of goals in recent qualification campaigns too. And over this period, Mandy started 17 of their 18 games and was on the bench for 1 other. And again, 3 of those starts were as a right back. Next, we have Rami Bentabeni, also at the definite level. However, he is out. Yes, he was an injury concern. He missed I should have waited until the end here. I will wait until the end because it fits better into the story there. Okay, Bentabeni has been with Algeria since 2017, and he has 76 caps and 9 goals. And he plays for Borussia Dortmund in Germany since 2023 and has been with teams in Germany and France. I think he was born in Algeria. I don't actually have that written here, but I don't have a note that he was born in France, like many of the players were. In fact, his youth club was in Algeria. Bentabeni. So yeah, one of the top club affiliations there, and he has been part of tournaments since the 2017 African Cup, all 4 tournaments since then, and a starter in all of them. He scored he did score in qualifying for this tournament, but I meant to say he started 14 of their 18 games over this period. He was injured for 3 of them, and so just 1 match that Bentabeni was not selected for. And as I said, he actually was a left back and has moved back to central defence here. Now I'll talk about that injury because that was right in the October games there. He was out with a back problem. No, not for the October games, for the November internationals. He was out in the middle of November there, but he was back playing for his team in late November, so that doesn't seem to be an issue. Also struggling with injury, Mohamed Amin Tugai, and we'll talk about his injury at the end here. Tugai has been with Algeria since 2021 with 25 caps and 1 goal and is 25 years old. He plays for Esperance in Tunisia since 2021. And his first tournament was the 2023 African Cup there. And he only appeared in 1 game, game 3, which he started and finished because Bentabani was suspended for that game. Over the period, Tugay started 11 of their 18 games. He was on the bench for one, injured for the last two, and not selected for four. So let's talk about that injury. He's out with a muscle problem. We're not sure exactly when, but from before the October international games there, and he has an unknown return date. So we'll have to update that in part two and see if we can get more specific or if it looks like he'll recover. So Mohamed Amin Tugay, a likely candidate, but the injury perhaps interfering. Next, we have the first of four possible candidates, Mohamed Amin Madani. And he has been with Algeria since 2024 with four caps. And he is 32 years old, though, so he's no spring chicken. He plays for Kabylie in Algeria and got his first appearance on the bench in March of 2024. He started two of their remaining 18 games and was subbed in for two and on the bench for 10. But he was injured for two. He was injured, as we saw in the narrative, for the first two September games and then not selected for the October games. So he was kind of looking like he was getting into the team, but now with that ending, we're not sure. Next, we have Zinedine Belaid. He's also fairly new since 2023 with 11 caps and is 26 years old. Also plays for Kabylie in Algeria. He just moved to them actually from a Belgian club where he was for a year. Otherwise, he's played in Algeria for his whole career. Belaid was on the roster for the 2023 African Cup, but just on the bench for all three games, and he didn't start any games over this period. He was subbed in for one, though, and on the bench for five, and that does include the last two matches there. So Zinedine Belaid perhaps making a bid for the team. Next is Ahmed Touba. He's been with Algeria since 2021 with 16 caps and one goal and is 27 years old. Plays for Panathinaikos in Greece, a recent move actually from his club in Turkey. And he was French-born, Ahmed Touba, but his first tournament was the 2023 African Cup. I say but because he was injured, so it wasn't a consideration for the 2021 African Cup there. He scored a crucial goal in World Cup 2022 qualifying against Cameroon in the playoffs there, but didn't see any action in the African Cup in 2023 and hasn't seen any starts over this period either, but he was subbed in for two and on the bench for six. He, though, like Belaid, was not selected for the last, like Madani, Belaid and Madani, all three of them, not selected for the last two matches there in October. Next, the last candidate at the possible level is Samir Chergui. He's new to the team since 2025 with one cap and is 26 years old. He plays for Paris FC in France since 2020, and he also is French-born. And Chergui got his first appearance on the bench in October of 2025 and didn't start either of those games, but was subbed in for one and on the bench for one. So perhaps coming into the team. And then our candidate at the seemingly off the squad level is Ayoub Abdallaoui, and he's never actually made it to a tournament. He's just kind of been around since 2017 with 14 caps over those 8 years, but last appeared in November of 2024. So Abdallaoui always kind of on the outskirts, it seems. That's it for central defenders. And let's move on to left backs. And yes, here we've actually moved Rami Bensebaini. In fact, I'm not the only one. I'm considering changing his main designation to centre backs. A couple of sources I use have already done that. And as you saw, we moved him to discuss him at the centre-back level, so we won't add him to the list on the left here. Rather, we have two other likely candidates, Rayan Ait-Nouri and Jaouin Hadjam. And then we have a possible candidate in Mehdi Dorval. He's new to the squad. And then a seemingly off the squad, Naofel Kassaf. Sorry, not seemingly off the squad. He's possible but unlikely. And seemingly off the squad, Yasser Larouchi. Okay, those are the players or the names that we're looking at. Let's go back and talk about the position over the period. So with Rami Bensebaini becoming a centre-back, he actually had been the starting left-back in the African Cup in 2021. But over the course of the up until the 2023 African Cup, he became a central defender. So with him becoming a central defender, Rayan Ait-Nouri and Yasser Larouchi seemed in pretty even competition for the spot going into the last cup. And both were selected for the squad, but Ait-Nouri ended up winning out there. He started all 3 games. Actually, for his part, Larouchi was on the bench for the tournament, but was never selected after the cup. Ait-Nouri held the position, though, until he was injured for the fall 2025 games. He did miss 3 games over that period, and it was Jaouin Hadjam replacing him. And replacing him both as a left back when they had a 4-man defence and as a left winger when it was a 3-5-2 formation. He was also the replacement for 3 of the 4 games in the fall of 2025 when Ait-Nouri was injured. But for one of those 4 games, Rami Bensebaini returned to his former role. That was for the first game in September. Anyway, it does look like Hadjam is the solid backup with Larouchi no longer part of the picture. Okay, let's take a look at the candidates then. Rayan Ait-Nouri is an injury concern. We'll talk about that at the end. He's been with Algeria since 2023 and has 20 caps and no goals and is 24 years old. He moved to Manchester City during this period in England since 2025. He was with Wolverhampton for 4 years before that, and then mostly for clubs in France, or actually solely for clubs in France prior to that. Angers mostly. That was his youth club as well. And he was born in France then and played for French underage teams. And the African Cup in 2023 was his first tournament. And as we saw, he was a starter in all 3 games there. Over the recent period, he started 10 of the 18 games. He was on the bench for 1, injured for the last 4 matches, and not selected for 3 others. So let's talk about that injury. It's an ankle injury. He was out for the last 4 games. But in early November, he came off the injured list. So he's no longer listed as an injury. However, he has only 1 minute. He's only played 1 minute for his clubs since coming off the injury list. Otherwise, he's been on the bench. And if you know anything about Manchester City in England, that's not a surprise. A lot of players are on the squad, but are just on the bench. But he has been a starter for Manchester City. So whether they're waiting for well, I know the situation in more detail. It looks like it actually might be tough for him to get his starting position or to get a starting position with them. Anyway, he should be good for this cup, though, because he has been recovered for a while. Next, we have also at the likely level, Jaouin Hadjam, and he's been with Algeria since 2023 with 14 caps and 3 goals. He's just 22 years old, and Hadjam plays for Young Boys in Switzerland since 2024. But he was French-born and played for French clubs before that, most recently Nantes in France. Hadjam started 8 of their 16 8 of their 18 games over the period. He subbed in for 2 and was on the bench for 5. So just 3 matches that Hadjam was not selected for. Next, we have at the possible level newcomer Mehdi Dorval, been with Algeria since 2025 with 1 cap, and he's 24 years old. He plays for a smaller club in Italy, Bari, since 2022 and was born in France. And Dorval got his first appearance on the bench right at the end of the period here in October of 2025. Didn't start either of those games, but was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1 other. Now Fouel Khalsef. I won't go into great detail. He came back to the team after a 3.5-year absence and didn't start any games, but he was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 2, but wasn't selected for 11 matches, and that includes the last 3. So a chance of him being selected, but an outside chance. And we'll probably give more detail on him if he ends up being selected for the squad. Yasser Larouchi is seemingly off the squad. He was looking quite promising going into the 2023 African Cup. We won't go into detail on him either, but as we saw, he just ended up being on the bench in that African Cup, but a bit surprisingly not selected at all afterwards. So Larouchi seems well off the squad here. Okay, that's it for left backs. Let's move over to the right side and see who we have. We have none at the definite level either on this side, but what we do have is a player at the likely level with an injury concern. That seems to be a bit of a pattern here. We'll talk about that injury when we do the bio on him. Yusuf Attal at the likely level. The next is at the possible level. It's Kevin Guitoun, who's also known as Kevin Vanden Kerkhoff. But I think we'll use Kevin Guitoun because that seems to be his the kind of name he uses for Algeria. That's the name on the back of his shirt in the African Cup there. We have 2 other players at the possible level. The first one is Mohamed Farsi, and he's actually a central midfielder, but we moved him to right back because his only starts here have been as a right. Well, I would say as a right back, but in a 3-5-2 formation, it was as a right winger. But Mohamed Farsi, also an injury concern here. And finally, we have the third possible candidate, Rafiq Belgali. Okay, let's take a look at the position over the period. So Yusuf Attal and Kevin Guitoun seemed in competition for the spot going into the Cup. In fact, we thought they might even rotate in the position. But as on the left, there was a clear winner, Attal starting all 3 games in the Cup, and a clear loser, Guitoun drifting off the team quite quickly after the Cup, not as abruptly as Larouchi on the left. Anyway, Attal was the main player who appeared in the position going forward. However, he was absent quite a bit, or actually for many games, he was just on the bench or a sub. So it seemed like a search, a search for a player in this position was underway. As we saw, central defender Aissa Mandi played 3 games in the fall of 2024. In the other 3, we saw Mohamed Farsi playing in the right winger role, which is often played by the right back when it's a 3-man defence. Farsi was also one of several players who made a single appearance in the actual right back position. Guitoun did start 1, and left back Hadjam also started, but Attal resumed his starting position in September of 2025. He played the first 2 games, only to be injured for the October games. And in that case, it was the brand new Rafiq Belgali brought in to replace him in those games. So yes, they've always seemed to kind of struggle with this position, never really satisfied with the candidates who were there, and that Yusuf Atal has always been one of the top candidates. Anyway, now he's out with a leg injury. Or he was out with a leg injury for the October matches, but he did return to action in early November. So he has recovered from his injury, but I don't know if he has that firm a grip on this position. I should have introduced him before the injury information. Anyway, Atal has been with Algeria since 2017, 52 caps and 2 goals, and still just 29 years old. He plays for Al Sadd in Qatar since 2024. He has a pretty long resume, but most recently played for Nice in France from 2018 to 2024. And he was part of the African Cup squad first in 2019, where he was a starter, and also in the 2021 and 2023 African Cups. Always seems to wind his way back to a starting position when the cup comes around. That might be the case here too. But in between, not so much. Here he started only seven of their 18 games. He was subbed in for 5 and on the bench for 1, and out with 2 separate injuries over the period. As we saw, it included the October matches there. But he is recovered, so Yusuf Atal, a likely candidate. Kevin Guiton, or Kevin Vandenkerhoek, Vandenkerkov, has been with Algeria since 2023. He has 10 caps and no goals and is 29 years old. And he plays for Metz in France, or is at least on their roster, because he's on loan to Charleroi in Belgium right now. And he played for Dudelange in Luxembourg for a couple of years there. That's pretty interesting, but mostly it's been French teams, and he is French-born. He was selected for the 2023 African Cup and actually did appear twice as a substitute in those games, but over the recent period only started 1 of their 18 games, was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 4, but not selected for 12 matches. He did actually come back for the September games, was not selected for the October games. So Guiton, all of it boils down to a possible candidate, we thought. Next, we have Mohamed Farsi. We have a particular interest in him because he was born in Canada and actually played for Canada under 23 team. So we're cheering for him. Go Farsi! Farsi has been with Algeria since 2024. He has 5 caps and no goals and is 26 years old. And he is playing in the USA for Columbus Crew since 2022. And he played for Cavalry FC in Canada. That is in Calgary, Alberta. I'm in Edmonton, about 3 hours north of Calgary. This is all touching my heart. Farsi got his first appearance on the bench in September of 2024, and he started 3 of their remaining 14 games. I thought it was 4, to be honest, but anyway, subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 2, but he was injured for the last 4 matches, and this doesn't look good. It's a pelvis injury since mid-July 2024, so this is a long-term injury with an unknown return date, and at this point, since he hasn't played, he would probably lack the fitness even if he recovered from his injury. So I'm going to guess he's out for the Cup. But we will update this in part 2. Finally, we have Rafik Belgali, also at the possible level, new to the team since 2025. He has 2 caps, though, and is 23 years old. He was born in Belgium and plays in Italy for Hellas Verona. That's a recent move from his Belgian club, Mechelen, there. And he came in right at the end, got his first cap in October 2025, and started both of those games. So Rafik Belgali, he could even make a challenge for the starting position, depending on how he performs. All right, let's move on to the. Oh yes, we are done. We're done our defense, and we can move up to the midfield, and we're going to look at the defensive end of the midfield. However, we don't have any candidates um, at the coded as defensive midfielders. There are a couple of sources that code Bentabani that code Nabil Bentaleb as a defensive midfielder, and actually that seems to be true. But right now we have him coded as a central midfielder, and indeed all of the candidates as central midfielders here, even though they do use formations with a defensive midfield. But let's talk a little bit about the position here. We saw in section 1 that the 4-3-3 is their favourite formation. Used in 56% of the games over the period. We found that a bit ironic because one of the things we had noticed going into the last cup is they were a bit thin in this area of the field. It didn't surprise us then when they actually used a 4-1-4-1 formation in the first 2 games of the African Cup. But when they used a 4-3-3 formation in the last game, and then in 56% of games over this period, we scratched our heads a little. But there we have it. We do have more candidates this time than we had last time, so let's take a look at them. At the likely level, we have Nabil Bentaleb. And then we have many possible candidates here. The first is Ramiz Zerouki. And then we have Husam Awar and Adem Zorgane or Zorgane. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Then we have Ismail Ben Asser. We moved Mohamed Farsi to the right back position, but he is coded as a central midfielder. We won't add him to the list here, though. And finally, our fifth multiple candidate, Ahmed Kendusi. Actually, we're going to add a couple more when we get to left and right midfielders, but we're trying to organize things in a digestible way here. So you'll see. It was a bit surreptitious how things fell into place, but we were able to organize things so we could just look at these candidates here. So let's talk about the position then. And actually, yes, we had actually speculated that the thin midfield was perhaps part of the reason they did so poorly in the last cup and over the last 2 cups. However, that doesn't seem to be a problem in qualifying for them. So besides being thin in terms of kind of steady candidates, it was also very unsettled going into the last cup as to who the starters were going to be. It turned out to be Nabil Bentaleb, who we thought was the most likely, and he played as the stopper in the 4-1-4-1 formation. That's a very defensive midfielder position. And otherwise, though, it was 6 other players filling out the central midfield, only Ramiz Zerouki appearing twice. So it was pretty much as we had described in the build-up to the Cup, that it was a very unsettled situation. Over the period, there really is no consistent player or pattern to the position, so kind of like last time. We don't have a lot to go on to make predictions going into this Cup. So we thought the best way to handle it is to go through the players individually. So we'll start with Nabil Bentaleb. He started only 7 of the 18 games over the period, so that should tell you about the lack of stability here. In the case of Bentaleb, more of those starts were towards the beginning of the period. On average, he started in the center of the often 3-man midfield. And as I said, some sources have him coded as a defensive midfielder. Over the period, he had heart problems, and he was out for all of the fall 2024 games and has started less after that. So Nabil Bentaleb by no means a staple in the midfield here. Next, we have Ramiz Zerouki. He actually started one more than Bentaleb. He started 8 of the 18 games, and he was fielded fairly consistently in 2024. But after a leg injury in March of 2025, Zerouki saw little action, although he did start the second game in September of 2025. Next, we have Hussein Aouar. He started 7 games. But he too got most of his starts earlier in the period. In a couple of games, he started more as a central attacking midfielder there. And he started only twice in 2025. And I have a note here that I wrote here, generally played on the right of the 4-3-3, but I don't think that's accurate. I think he played in the centre just as much as he did on the right. So yes, really, again, not much pattern in where they started. They moved around really. Next, we have Adam Zorgain. He started 5 of the 18 games, again, mostly in the beginning of the period. For him, it was mostly in the fall 2024 games. And then he was off the team for a while and came back to start the last game, Adam Zorgain. Next, Ismail Benazer. He started the first game of the Cup in the African Cup there, but injury kept him out of the last 2 games. Otherwise, as we said, like most players got a single start in that Cup. In addition to his injury in the Cup, Benazer struggled with 3 separate injuries over the period, 3 besides the one in the Cup. He started 2 games in June and September of 2024 in between his injuries, and then 1 game in June of 2025. But that game was his only appearance for the whole time from September 2024. So he got 1 start and didn't appear as a sub or on the bench otherwise. Nevertheless, we do still think Benazer is a possible candidate, if only he can get over his injuries. Ironically, with all the injuries we have on the team right now, he is not one of them. So he may be in shape to come back. Finally, we have Ahmed Kenduchi. He seemed to be getting more integrated into the team over the course of this period. He started 2 of 3 games before a long-term injury made him unavailable from June 2025. So another injury concern, and we'll take a look when we get to his bio. Now, we do have 2 more players to talk about, but we're going to move that discussion to left and right midfielders. It's a bit surreptitious that they are actually coded differently than central midfielders, so that we're not. We already have a big number of players to tackle here, so we can't put those 2 off until the next section. Let's take a look at Nabil Bentaleb then, the likely candidate here. He's been with Algeria since 2014 with 58 caps and 6 goals, and is 31 years old, and he's playing for Lille in France since 2023. And he, in the past, played for Schalke in Germany, was on loan to Newcastle, and maybe best known by watchers of the EPL with Tottenham in England from 2013 to 17, and with their youth club as well. But he is French born and played for underage French teams there. His first term at Bentaleb was in the 2014 World Cup. He was a starter in that tournament and has been part of all of their tournaments except for the 2019 African Cup. I think he may have been off the team for a while, because I don't have him here for the 2021 African Cup either. Anyway, he did come back for the 2023 African Cup, and as we saw, he was a starter in games 1 and 2 there. Okay, over the period though, we saw he started only 7 of their games. So let me see. I'm just repeating his heart problem. He was out for 6 games and didn't start that much towards the end. Okay, maybe I can kind of skip that recent update since we did that as part of the narrative. Let's look at Rami Zerouki. He is at the possible level with Algeria since 2021 with 45 caps and 3 goals, 27 years old, and he plays for Feyenoord in the Netherlands, actually is on loan to Twente, his second spell with them. And he's born in the Netherlands. All of his clubs have been in that country. He was part of the African Cup in 2021, just came in as a sub for 2 games there. In 2023, he subbed into game 1, but as we saw, started games 2 and 3. Or yes, he was the only midfielder to start twice. And nothing really in his recent update other than the fact that he missed the last 2 matches, not selected for the last 2 matches there as a rookie. Hussein Aouar has been with the team since 2023 with 18 caps and 5 goals. That's pretty good. He does actually play in various positions. We saw he started twice as a central attacking midfielder. Aouar is 27 years old and plays for Al Ittihad in Saudi Arabia. Since 2024. Before that, he was with Roma and Lyon in France. So a good resume for him. Born in France, and his first and only tournament was the last African Cup. He was subbed into 1 game and started 1 game there. And he too was missing for the last 2 matches over this period, injured for 4 of them as well. The next possible candidate is Adam Zorgain. He's been with Algeria since 2019, 24 caps and 1 goal for the 25-year-old. And he plays for Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium, recently moved there from Charleroi in Belgium, where he was for 4 years. Part of the 2021 African Cup there, just on the bench for that cup and not selected in 2023. He made the preliminary but not the final squad, and as we saw, started 5 games over this period, on the bench for 4 and not selected for 7. Ismail Benasser is not a veteran quite, 54 caps. We consider 60 caps veteran status, and he's been with Algeria since 2016. Is still only 28 years old. He plays for AC Milan in Italy, actually, but is on loan to Dinamo Zagreb right now, a recent loan. In fact, he was in 2025 loaned to Dinamo Zagreb in Croatia and to Marseille in France. But he's been on the roster for AC Milan since 2019. And he was also on Arsenal's roster for a couple of years in 2015. There. He was born in France, but his father is Congolese. That's pretty interesting. And he's been part of tournaments since the 2017 African Cup. Never really a starter, though, as we saw in the African Cup. He started game 1, but not 2 and 3. And apart from the 2019 African Cup, he hasn't really been a starter in these cups. And over the period, he only started 3 of their 18 games. But as we saw, he was riddled with injury throughout the period, missing 9 of the games, Benasser. Our last candidate to look at here is Ahmed Kenduchi, and also an injury concern. Good Lord. He's been with the Algeria since 2024 with 8 caps and no goals. Kenduchi is 26 years old, played for Lugano in Switzerland, a recent move from having been with 2 clubs in Egypt over the last 2 years. He got his first cap for the senior team, at least in March of 2024, and started 2 games, as we saw. But he has been injured for the last 8 matches, so I can talk about that injury now. It is a fractured leg, a fractured lower leg since way back in May of 2025. However, he did return to play for his club quite recently on November 2025, and he has 2 bench appearances and one substitute appearance of 15 minutes, so kind of getting back into shape. So not sure he'll be ready for this cup. A bit touch and go, but maybe we can give more of an update in part 2. Okay, that's it for central midfielders. I put them in the wrong spot on the YouTube graphic here. All central midfielders there. And we do have a couple coded as left and right midfielders, which is kind of handy. The 4-3-3 midfielder, though, doesn't really have right and left midfielders when it comes to the players, because as we saw, they've kind of been rotating around willy-nilly all over the place. So this is just what the players are coded at, but you can view them as more central midfielders. The first one is left midfielder. Faris Chaibi, he actually kind of plays all over the field. His first game during this period was as a right attacking midfielder, but otherwise he was in central midfield. We're just moving him here to left midfield for the convenience of talking about him. And we'll actually introduce the right midfielders at the same time. So Chaibi is a likely candidate. And then as right midfielders, we also have a likely candidate in Hicham Boudaoui, maybe pronounced Hicham Boudaoui. And then as a right midfielder, we also have seemingly off the squad, Sofiane Feghouli. So let's see what their contribution to the story is here. And, well, just like we did for central midfielders, we'll just go through the players and talk about their roles. So Faris Chaibi, his only start in the early part of the period was as a right attacking midfielder. But from November 2024, he got 4 starts, usually playing as a left midfielder in a 4-3-3 formation, but significantly he started 2 of the last 3 games, Faris Chaibi. So we see that these players are the ones kind of coming in at the end, or taking up the position more at the end. Hicham Boudaoui is coded as a right midfielder. And he actually, out of all the central midfielders we've met, had the most starts with 9 out of 18 games. So it's good that we leave him till near the end of the discussion here, because he became more prominent towards the end. He only started 1 game in 2024, but he started all 8 games in 2025. So if we're looking for a pattern or a player to kind of pin the central midfield around, he's the guy in recent games, Hicham Boudaoui. Let's take a look at the candidates, though. Faris Chaibi has been with Algeria since 2023. He has 23 caps and 2 goals and is 23 years old. So there we go, 23 years old, 23 caps, and with Algeria since 2023. I shouldn't have repeated that, but I couldn't help myself. He's been with Eintracht Frankfurt in Germany since, I'll let you guess, when he joined them. Yes, 2023. And he was with Toulouse in France from 2022 to 2023. Toulouse was his youth club. Chaibi was born in France, and the African Cup in 2023 was his first tournament. He started and finished game 1 there, but then lost his starting position in that tournament. Over this period, he started 5 of their 18 games and subbed in for 5 and was on the bench for 2. but not selected for 6 matches. But all of those were in 2024. So, in the recent part of the period, he has been quite active. Faris Chaibi, a likely candidate. And then the right midfielder, who's also likely, Hikam Boudaoui, has been with Algeria since 2018. Only 28 caps in those times with no goals, and he's 26 years old, and he plays for Nice in France since 2019. But he was born in Algeria and played for youth clubs in Algeria. Boudaoui's first tournament was the 2019 African Cup. He only started a B team game there and wasn't selected for the 2021 African Cup. He was, though, for the 2023 African Cup. He appeared in game 3 there. And as we said, he started 9 games, including the last 4 of their 18 games. I thought I had said the last 8, but anyway, regularly starting recently. He was out with 2 separate injuries over the period for 4 games and was not selected for the first 4 matches. So that was part of the reason he wasn't active earlier in the period. Anyway, Hikam Boudaoui, a likely candidate here. The seemingly off the squad player is Sofiane Fagouli. He's a veteran, really, with 83 caps and 19 goals since 2012. And he was part of the African Cup in 2023. But has not appeared for the team since then. For the national team since then. He is 36 years old, Sofiane Fagouli, so it would be a surprise to see him called up for this cup. Well, that was an ordeal in central midfield, but keep in mind that we were filling 2 to 3 positions there with that 4-3-3 formation. We now move upfield to the attacking midfield, and we begin with left attackers. So again, that 4-3-3 formation makes this a left forward position most of the time, but we do consider it left and right attacking midfielders alongside a single forward there. Let's look at the candidates we have here. And we have moved Mohamed Amouri. He's coded as a forward, but we've moved him over here because he played a little more than half of his games as a left attacking midfielder here. And then we have a likely candidate in Saïd Benrahma. And we have Youssef Belaili, who is at the possible level here. So just the 3 candidates to deal with over here. Let's take a look at the position over the period. So Youssef Belaili played the first 2 games of the Cup. He played as an attacking winger in a 4-1-4-1 formation there. And in the 3rd game, it was Mohamed Amouri playing as a left forward in a 4-3-3 formation. Over the March and June 2024 games, 4 different players were used. Eventually, though, it roughly settled into Saïd Benrahma playing when it was a left attacking midfield position, and Mohamed Amoura playing when it was a left forward position there. So let's look at the candidates here, beginning with Mohamed Amouri. He's a definite candidate. And as I said, he did play other positions, including centre forward, as we'll see. Amoura has been with Algeria since 2021 with 39 caps and 19 goals, so a good record there. He's just 25 years old and plays for Wolfsburg in Germany since 2025. He was with Union Saint-Gilloise before that. And he was part of the 2021 African Cup, just on the bench there. But in the 2023 edition, he subbed into Game 2 at halftime and then went on to start Game 3. Over the period, he started 11 of their 18 games, as well as subbing in for 5. and out with 2 separate injuries, but just for 2 games. So just 1 match that he wasn't selected for. So Mohamed Amoura, a definite candidate to make the squad, we think. Next, we have likely candidate Saïd Benrahma. He's been with Algeria since 2015 with 40 caps and 4 goals, and he's 30 years old. He plays for Neom in Saudi Arabia since 2025 and was with Lyon in France before that. And he was also with West Ham in England for 3 years from 2021 to 2024. And we won't go too much into his club history there. He was part of the 2021 African Cup and just subbed into a game there as well as starting 1 game. That's his only tournament, though. He was not selected for the 2017 or 19 African Cups, nor the 2023 African Cup. Where he was on the preliminary squad but didn't make the final cut. He scored 3 goals over their 2 recent qualification campaigns, 2 of their 16 for this cup and 1 of their 24 goals in World Cup 2026 qualifying. And Benrahma has started a little less than half, 8 of the 18 games over the period, but he did sub in for 7. So not selected for 3 matches. However, that includes the last 2 matches. But we still think Benrahma is a likely candidate. It makes me think maybe he's between possible and likely there. Okay, and finally we have possible candidate Youssouf Belaili. He's been with Algeria also since 2015 with 59 caps and 10 goals. And Belaili is 33 years old, currently playing for Esperance in Tunisia since 2024. But he has played in a lot of different countries, Qatar, France, and Saudi Arabia. Actually, this is his 3rd stint with Esperance in Tunisia. He was a starter in the 2019 African Cup and was also selected for the 2021 and 23 African Cups, a starter in those 2, although he lost his starting position in the 3rd game of the most recent cup there. And started only 1 of their games over this period, actually. He subbed in for 4 and was on the bench for 1. But he was around for the first October 2025 game and not selected for the second one. So he still seems to be in the picture, and we have him as a possible candidate. But he is out with a cruciate ligament tear from late November, so that was after the October games, and an unknown return date. So that sounds like it might put him out of the cup, unfortunately for Youssouf Belaili. Okay, we move over to the right side and look at the candidates here. And here we have a much more defined candidate, Riyad Mahrez. He's captain of the team, and he's a definite candidate. And we also have 2 candidates at the possible level, both of them newcomers, actually. The first is Anis Haj Musa, and the second is Ilan Kadal. And then we have 1 candidate seeming possible but unlikely, Badreddine Bouanani there. Okay, let's go to the narrative of the position, and it's Riyad Mahrez starting the first 2 games of the Cup, but he was notably ineffectual in the Cup and was not started in Game 3. And for whatever reason, he was not called up for the first 4 games, but that was under the new manager. However, in the fall of 2024, he resumed his starting position and basically had command of the position until the end. But he did miss a few games. In his absence, 3 different out-of-position players were used, including a bit strangely the left midfielder Faris Chaibi. as one of the replacing players. So out of position players rather than the possible candidates here replacing him. So Riyad Mahrez has a long resume. He has been with Algeria since 2014 with 108 caps and 34 goals. He is 34 years old, and has moved to Al Ahly in Saudi Arabia. He's actually been there since 2023, having moved from Manchester City, where he was from 2018 to 2023. But of course, famous for his league-winning season with Leicester in England there, where he was from 2014 to 18. And Mahrez was born in France and has been part of tournaments since the 2014 World Cup there, part of every tournament and captain since 2019 there. Over the recent period, he started 12 of their 18 games, subbed in for one, and not selected for 5 of the first 6 matches there in the period, but then regained his starting position afterwards. So Riyad Mahrez, a staple in this position. The first of the possible candidates is Anis Hadj Moussa. He's new to the team since 2024, but at 7 caps and no goals. He's 23 years old and playing for Feyenoord in the Netherlands since 2024. Moussa is born in France and got his first cap in March of 2024. He didn't actually start any of the games, but subbed in for 7 games, including the last 3 matches there. And yes, a possible candidate. The other possible candidate is Ilan Cabal, and also new to the team. He's been here since 2025 with just 1 cap and no goals. He's 27 years old and plays for Paris FC in France since 2023. He was also born in France. He got his first appearance on the bench actually way back in October 2021. That didn't register as a cap. He was just on the bench, but he returned after an almost 4-year absence and didn't start any games, but he got his cap subbing in for the last game there, having been on the bench for the other 3 matches in the fall of 2025 there. So Ilan Cabal, a possible candidate. The player seemingly off the squad is Badreddine Bouanani, and he actually returned after a year-long absence in October 2024, and then he was on the bench once in October 2024 and once in October 2025, actually the last game he was on the bench for. Nevertheless, we put him at the possible but unlikely level here. We'll tell you more about him if he's selected for the squad. So that's right attackers there. Seems to be Riyad Mahrez's position still. Let's move on to central attacking midfielders. So this position, or a formation that includes this position, was used 6 times over the period. Oh, I'm jumping ahead. I need to introduce the candidates first. So we have at the possible level Ibrahim Maza, and then seemingly off the squad, Yassine Brahimi. There. Okay, now I should talk about the position. As I said, not used that much, 6 times. Ibrahim Maza did play one of these, but otherwise it was out of position players. And we saw twice that central midfielder Houssem Aouar filled that position. The second November 2024 game actually had a bit of an odd formation. It was a 3-2-2-2-1. And if you envision that in your head, it's defensive midfielders, 2 wingers, and then 2 attacking midfielders. So a double attacking midfielder position. And in that game, it was right attacking midfielder Riyad Mahrez on the right, and the versatile attacker Amin Gouiri filling the roles there. So, yes, really not used that much. Anyway, let's look at the candidates. Ibrahim Maza has been with Algeria just since 2024, He has 6 caps and no goals, and he's only 20 years old, playing for Bayer Leverkusen in Germany. A recent move from Hertha Berlin in Germany, and he was born in Germany, Ibrahim Maza. Got his first cap in October of 2024 and started 2 of their remaining 11 games, as well as subbing in for 4. And only 2 matches that he wasn't selected for. So close to being a possible candidate or a likely candidate, Ibrahim Maza. Meanwhile, Yassin Brahimi seems to be off the squad. He's a veteran with 69 caps and 15 goals since 2013 and is 35 years old now. So he didn't make the African Cup in 2023. He was on the bench. He was on the preliminary squad, but didn't make the final cut. However, he did appear after that in June of 2024, but has not appeared since then. So Yassin Brahimi seemingly off the squad. He's still playing club soccer, though. And that's it for the midfield. On the whole, and we go on to the forward line. We have no players coded as secondary strikers, so we go directly to forwards. And yes, a 4-3-3 formation we consider to be 1 forward with the left and right attackers as attacking midfielders. But as we said, in almost half of the games, it's a 2-man forward line. 44% of the games they use a formation with 2 forwards. Let's look at the candidates. We begin with a definite candidate in Amin Gouiri, who we just mentioned. There, he is definite, and I think he appears in several positions. Yes, anyway, let's move on to the likely candidate, Baghdad Bouneja. And next we have another likely candidate, Yassin Benzia. Oop, there we go. Finally, we have a player seemingly off the squad in Adam Unas. So not that many candidates here for the forward line. Oh, we have one more seemingly off the squad, and that is Centurion Islam Slimani. So we'll take a look at him after we look at the narrative of the position here. Going into the previous cup, we had not considered Baghdad Bouneja that likely because he hadn't played the position much in the lead up to the cup, and yet there seems something inevitable about him coming in to start all games in the cup as he did. But same over this period, he didn't start as much as all that, just 8 of the 18 games. And then in 2025, only 2 of the 8 games in 2025. So it could be shaping up the same way where even though he didn't play a lot of games, he's brought into the cup. We'll see. Anyway, Bouneja started all 3 games in the cup and then started the games in March 2026. That was a 2-man offensive line, so he was accompanied by Amin Gouiri in one and Yassin Benzia in the other, each starting alongside Bouneja. And ultimately, over the course of the period, Gouiri had more starts than Bouneja as the centre forward. Benzia started the first game in June as well, but otherwise started in different positions and didn't drop off the team over the period, but dropped more to the bench over the period. Several of the attacking midfielders, I mean the left and right attacking midfielders, got single starts as centre forward or as one of the 2 centre forwards. And one was Mohamed Amoura. We moved him to left attacking midfielder for this mediacast, but he played almost as much as a centre forward there. In the last 3 games, it was Mohamed Amoura, Gouiri and Bouneja each starting the last 3 games respectively, and that basically represents the period fairly nicely. Okay, so let's look at the candidates. Guiri, also an injury concern, which we'll talk about at the end. Here, he's been with Algeria since 2023 with 18 caps and 6 goals, and is 25 years old. Guiri plays for Marseille in France. That's a recent move from Reims in France. All of his clubs have been in France because he was born there, and an injury prevented him from being selected for the 2023 African Cup. In fact, he was selected but replaced because of that injury. And over the recent period, he scored 4 of their 16 goals in qualifying for this cup, as well as one of their 24 goals in World Cup qualifying. Guiri started 10 of their 18 games over this period, as well as subbing in for 5 and on the bench for 1. So just 2 matches that Guiri was not selected for. Baghdad Bounedjah, on the other hand, only started 8 of their 18 games. I'll come to that after giving his kind of career information here. Bounedjah has been with Algeria since 2013. He has 83 caps and 35 goals and is now 34 years old. He's been playing with Al Shamal in Qatar since 2024, but was with another team in Qatar, Al Saad, from 2015 to 2024. So he's been over there for a long time. He never did play in Europe. Actually, he was with a club in Tunisia and in clubs in Algeria prior to that. Bounedjah's first tournament was the 2017 African Cup. He was on standby for the 2015 African Cup, but not called in. Otherwise, he's been part of every tournament since then. And as we saw in the last African Cup, despite not starting a lot in the build-up to the Cup, was given the starting position for the Cup. And started 8 of their 18 games over the period, as I said, as well as subbing in for 5 and on the bench for 1. 4 matches he wasn't selected for, and that includes the last match there. And we have him as a likely candidate here. The other likely candidate is Yassine Benzia, and he's been with Algeria since 2016 with 17 caps and 4 goals, and is 31 years old. And he's recently moved to Al Faya in Saudi Arabia in 2025, and was with Karabag in Azerbaijan prior to that. He's really been he's played in a lot of countries, but he was born in France, and despite being with the team since 2016, Benzia has never been called up for a tournament there, and in fact was off the team for 5.5 years there, and then came back in March of 2024 and started 5 of their remaining 18 games, as well as subbing in for 7, and was on the bench for 6 others. So almost a definite candidate. Benzia really making his way into the team now, it having eluded him, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, ever since 2016 when he got his first cap. Okay, and then seemingly off the squad, we have Adam Unas, and we won't go into too much detail. We'll just say he last appeared for the national team in the 2023 African Cup there. I just need to make a note here because I think some information is wrong. Anyway, he was selected for the 2023 African Cup there, but hasn't appeared recently. The other one is Slimani Islam, and because he seems to be a parting veteran, we'll spend a little bit of time on him. Islam Slimani, with Algeria since 2012, with 102 caps and 47 goals, and is 37 years old. He's still playing club soccer. He's currently with CFR Cluj in Romania since 2025. And has been part of tournaments ever since the 2013 African Cup there. So Islam Slimani, I won't go into too much detail, but has been part of many tournaments, often as a starter, not always though. Including the 2023 African Cup, he was selected and subbed into all 3 games there. But that was the last time he appeared for the national team. And he is 37 years old now, so we would be surprised to see him returning. But then we were also surprised when goalkeeper Mbolo returned when he was 37, so one never knows. Okay, but that does bring us to the end of our look at the players, and we move on to section 3. And in section 3, we want to welcome listeners who are just listening to the short version of part 1 on Algeria's players. So I'll just tell you that in the full version, we introduced the candidates, we gave reason, or we placed them according to their likelihood of making the final squad, and gave reasons for that, as well as career information on the main players especially. So in this review, we're not really concerning ourselves with predicting starters. That's something we're going to do in part 2. But we're just looking at the candidates and their likelihood of making the squad. So we begin with manager Vladimir Petkovic. He's been the manager since January, or I should say February 2024, and has qualified them for the World Cup. So we feel pretty sure that he will manage them through this tournament. Goalkeepers, we have a definite candidate in Alexis Guendouzi, but we have a lot to report in the injury section, including on him. So we're going to go fast here. We have likely candidate Oussama Ben-Bout, and then 4 possible candidates: Anthony Mandrea, Alexander Ukija, Luka Zidane, and Zakaria Boulhafea. I won't mention most of the seemingly off the squad players, but since Race and Bowley came back, and because 2 of the goalkeepers are injured, we wouldn't be surprised if Race and Bowley came back kind of out of the wilderness, as he did for the 2023 African Cup there. Anyway, he does seem to be off the squad. For central defenders, we have 2 definite candidates: Aissa Mandi and Rami Bensebaini, and then a likely candidate in Mohamed Amin Tougai, and then 4 possible candidates: Mohamed Amin Madani, Zinedine Belaid, Ahmed Touba, and Sami Chergui. Moving over to left backs, no one at the definite level, but we have at the likely level 2 candidates: Rayan Aït-Nouri and Jaouen Habjam, and then at the possible level, Mehdi Dorval. Right backs, again, no definite candidates, but a likely candidate in Youssef Attal, and then 3 possible candidates: Kevin Guitoun, Mohamed Farsi, and Rafik Belghali. On upfield to, defensive midfielders, we have no candidates coded as defensive midfielders, but we have a raft of players coded as central midfielder. None at the definite level, though. So at the likely level, we have Nabil Bentaleb, and then 5 possible candidates: Ramiz Zerouki, Houssam Aouar, Adam Zorgain, Ismail Benasser, and Ahmed Kendouchi. In addition to that, we have left and right midfielders who also play basically as central midfielders. Both of them are at the likely level. On the left, we have Faris Chaibi, and on the right, we have Hikam Boudaoui. And probably one of the more likely players, Boudaoui, there to be starters. Moving up to the attacking midfield, we look at the left side attackers, and we have definite candidate Mohamed Amoura, and then likely candidate Saeed Benrahma, and possible candidate Yusuf Belaili. On the right side, a definite candidate in Riyad Mahrez, none at the likely level, but possible Anis Haj Musa and Ilan Kebal. And central attacking midfielders, just a possible candidate in Ibrahim Maza. And now I can say finally, because we go directly to forwards, where we have a definite candidate in Amin Gouiri and likely candidates in Baghdad Bunecha and Yassine Benzia. Okay, that is it for the review of players. Now we have a lot to talk about in terms of big names off the squad and injuries. Let's start with big names off the squad. Well, we'll begin with manager Jamel Belmadi. He coached them through to their second African Cup title in 2019 and survived a last place finish in the group stage in 2021. But when it happened again in 2023, that was it. He is out. Next, we have goalkeeper Reis Mboli, 96 caps for the national team. We thought he was out before the 2023 African Cup because he hadn't played in the build-up to that, but suddenly he was called back in and made the squad. We think that might happen again this time once you see the injuries for goalies, but last appeared in that African Cup on the bench in January 2024. Next, we have Sofiane Feghouli, and he has 83 caps with the national team since 2012. Last appeared in the 2023 African Cup as well. Sofiane Feghouli, and he's 36 years old. Reis Mboli, 39 years old now. Next, we have Yassine Brahimi. He's 35 years old, 69 caps for the national team. Didn't actually appear in the 2023 African Cup, but did appear afterwards as late as June 2024 was his last appearance for the national team, but not called up since then. Finally, we have Islam Slimani, 102 caps for the national team and 47 goals. With Algeria since 2012. He's 37 years old now, but made it to the last African Cup in 2023, but that was his last appearance for the team. Those are the big names off the squad. Let's go to injuries, and we have a lot to talk about here. We begin with two goalkeepers. The definite goalkeeper Alexis Guendouzi, out with a calf injury since very recently, mid-December 2025 here, and an unknown return date. It doesn't look good for him, but we will say unknown now, and hopefully in part two we'll get some updates for some of these injuries. Next, we have possible goalkeeper Alexander Ukija. He's out with a cruciate ligament tear since August 2025, but still an unknown return date. But maybe things a bit more hopeful for his return. So that's two goalies out. Next, we have central defender Rami Bensebaini. Well, he was out with a back problem for the November internationals, but was playing with his team in late November. So we can say Rami Bensebaini has recovered from injury. Another central defender, Mohamed Amin Tougai, out with muscle problems since before the October international and an unknown return date. He's no longer on the injury list, but has not played for his club. So hopefully between now and part two, we'll see that he's played for his club. He is a likely candidate as a central defender, and we're going to call that unknown right now. Another central defender, Samir Churgui, at the possible level, out with a hamstring injury since late November and an unknown return date. That doesn't sound good, but right now we'll put it as an unknown and hopefully get more information. We have a left back, Ryan Aitnouri, on no longer on the injury list, actually. He's a likely candidate, out with an ankle injury for the last 4 international games. But in early November, he came off the injured list. However, he's only played 1 minute for his club and has otherwise been on the bench, so may still be recovering. That is Ryan Aitnori. I'm going to put him back in the expected back category because he has, it seems, been recovered for quite a while. Next, we have likely right back Yusuf Attal. He was out with a leg injury for the October matches, but he returned to action in early November, so we can call Yusuf Attal recovered from injury. The other right back at the likely level, Kevin Guiton, is out with an unknown injury since late November and an unknown return date. So that doesn't look that good. Next, we have a central midfielder, Mohamed Farsi, but he's been playing as a right back. So that makes it 3 right backs with injury concerns. Mohamed Farsi has been out with a pelvis injury since mid-July 2025 and an unknown return date. So obviously that's a serious one, but we'll put him as unknown as well. Central midfielder Ahmed Kanduchi is at the possible level, out with a fractured lower leg since early May 2025. However, did return to play for his club on November 25th, but has 2 bench appearances and 1 substitute appearance of 15 minutes. So it looks like he's still recovering, but we can say expected back for Ahmed Kanduchi. Next, left attacking midfielder Yusuf Belaili, out with a cruciate ligament tear from late November and an unknown return date. That doesn't look like he'll recover in time, but we're not sure, so we'll put him as an unknown as well. And wow, finally, we have Amin Gouiri. We're currently deciding whether he's a left attacking midfielder or a forward. He's a definite candidate, though, but out with a shoulder injury from late October 2025. And here we do have an expected return date. That is January 20th, 2026. So that puts him out of contention for the Cup. So they'll probably have to rely on Bunaja again here now that they're missing forward coded as a definite candidate. That is a lot to deal with for injuries. And we're going to move on. We're going to skip closing thoughts here and go straight to the preview for part 2. So that'll come out when we look at the preliminary squad and the final selections. We'll be able to tell you who made it and who didn't. We'll pay attention to any notable non-selections and any surprise inclusions and any new players. Anything that's really different from what we covered in this media cast. Of course, we'll give updates on those many injuries they have. And one of our tasks in part 2 is to actually predict the starting lineup. So we'll do that in our Spotlight review. Okay, that is it for part 1 here. And stay tuned for part 2. We would like to thank Pixabay and Cold Fingers for the wonderful music used in this media cast. The title of the piece is Eid Mubarak.